don't take no L.
All right, get this going. Welcome to a new video, guys. Today I have a task that I've been putting off for far too long. So my hopes are by bringing you guys along, it's finally going to get me through doing this task. And what I'm talking about is replacing the rear subframe bushings on my E30 Touring. The stock bushings have actually been torn for quite some time. I have some awful clunking going on in the back. As a matter of fact, I bought the car with one side already torn. It wasn't too bad, but obviously driving and romping on the car like I have been in some of the videos that you guys have seen, it simply didn't go well, so the bushings have now completely failed, and when I'm driving around, there's just never-ending clunking. So I went ahead and purchased these aftermarket units. These are a street version from Garagistic, and they are a 80A Durameter. So hopefully they'll make the back end nice and tight. But yeah, as I was saying, I'm not looking forward to this job. Something tells me that it could be pretty nasty because the car actually originally came with a replacement, a new rear subframe bushing that for some reason was never installed. I found that kind of curious that it was just included in the car. So either A, somebody was just lazy like me, or B, they did not want to do what I'm about to go through. So yeah, enough of the intro, guys. Let's get wrenching. Oh yeah, speaking of positive things, we are, when I say we, my wife and I, have this garage floor scheduled to be replaced. So I really haven't shot a whole lot of videos in here just because this floor sucks. The garage is like a shed. Back here there are wood planks laid down. I just had them laying around because there's literally holes in the floor absolutely everywhere. So it's impossible to roll a jack around. This is just broken up asphalt and it sucks. So we have that scheduled for in 2 weeks. I'm really excited about that. I should have a brand new beautiful floor in here, which will then allow me to wrench and do the car things that I've been wanting to do and been putting off for so long. Because rolling around on broken asphalt is really not that fun. So anyways, like I said, let's get wrenching.
So why not take a day and head into the city, put some color in your hair, make your nails look pretty, why not? Catch a matinee around 11, it's whatever, say you wanna let you finish at the sands, why not? 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 Baby, if I
This jack point right here, this is a bracket. This is usually where I would put my jack stand, but obviously since I am working on this specific area, I cannot put my jack stand there. So unfortunately I have to put it on this very deteriorated piece of metal right here. I hope it's not gonna collapse. It's pretty rusted through already. I should probably look at getting that welded one day, but yeah. After you put your car in jack stands, always give it a good little push to make sure that you don't die. And looks like I will not die today.
You my Lamborghini angel, but you scared of the fame though. They say that love's blind, I guess that's half true. So you could end up taking half if you have to.
Alright, I'm gonna let it sit. I'm gonna do the other side and we'll give it a shot here in a couple minutes. Okay, so I'm actually making fairly good progress. Luckily this metal is not as hard as I thought it was going to be. So make sure you always lubricate, take your time, don't go too fast. You don't want to smoke your bit. And yeah, you should be able to drill out the bolt if you end up in a situation like me. By the way, don't take this as the proper technique. I suck at this. I have had to drill out a ton of bolts because I own a Toyota Land Cruiser and literally everything you do on those vehicles requires drilling and retapping threads, and it's just an awful nightmare. But basically what I'm trying to do is just drill out the center of the bolt. I use the head as a guide I have a perfect guide thanks to the Allen head that was, or the Allen fitting that was completely stripped out. And yeah, it looks like I'm gonna be breaking through here pretty soon. Oh yeah, and when you're drilling stuff out, make sure you wear protective glasses and gloves, because you don't want any of that stuff on, in, or anywhere around your eyes. All right, well, at least it's progress. Wow. Oh, this sucks. Little update here. So as you can see, I have both sides removed at this point. This is about how far I got into the bolt. Yeah, not a fun job. I hope you guys don't have to do this. It's doable, of course. Just gonna replace it with another bolt, but yeah, so that's where I'm at. The other side actually just broke off. I couldn't remove it all the way, so we are almost to the point where we can start disconnecting these, and I'm gonna clean up all this crap off camera. Don't want to bore you guys with that, but yeah, I'm gonna support the subframe at this point, and then I'm gonna start working on these larger bolts and removing those. Okay, so now that I have the problematic Allen bolts removed, it's time to remove this large 22mm nut. Yeah, so I have the subframe supported by the jack, so I'm just going to, okay, there you go. Luckily, I'm just hitting myself in the face with a 1/2-inch ratchet, no worries. Yay, finally something went well. There you go. Awesome. Next up, you are going to use a fairly large hammer and give this long bolt or stud right here a couple hits to knock it loose, and then it should go up into the cabin and you'll find it underneath your seat. There you go. And then right here, that's where the stud comes out. All right, progress is being made. And yes, I am using a chisel and a hammer to very slowly tap this bushing out. Let me bring you up to speed. I took a little bit of a break, and then I worked on the passenger side. I got that bushing out. I wanted to figure out a way to do it without being, I guess, too cumbersome, too destructive, and too dangerous, because after all, this is a pretty involved job. So, full transparency, I did not do it the right way. What I did was I drilled out all the rubber on the inside of the bushing, because for some reason I thought that would give me more access to, I don't even know what I was thinking. I thought it was gonna give me more access from the inside. I also had in the back of my head that some people use a Sawzall to cut the inside sleeve. I gave that a try for about 2 seconds and then realized that this sleeve is extremely thick, and it's gonna be very time consuming to cut through that. And on top of that, I was concerned that I might break through on some parts of this and then cut into my subframe. So I scratched that idea. What I ended up switching to is I ended up heating up the area on the subframe where it makes contact to the rubber just enough. I wasn't burning it, I wasn't torching it, but I heated it up just enough to the point where I was then able to grab the bushing at the bottom and wiggle it back and forth to the point where I broke the bond between the rubber and the metal. Now, some people take out the subframe and they completely burn the rubber to the point where it melts and drips out. Blake's Garage actually has a pretty cool video on that. I'm gonna link him in the description. He puts on a really nice smoke show and he burns out all of the rubber and it comes out like butter. It's really nice. I did not want to do that, A, because I didn't want to do this in the garage. B, I didn't want to take out my subframe because I know some of you guys are going to try it this way. So I figured I'm going to try doing this with the subframe installed and see how I can get this out. Now, another disclaimer, I'm not using the proper tool that BMW designed for this. There is a tool that you can purchase. It's obviously very expensive. I think it's about $250, something like that. And you're most likely just going to use it once. So ideally, you rent that tool somewhere. Not everybody has access to that. So again, that's something that, well, to be honest, I just didn't choose that way because I didn't have access to that tool and I didn't want to buy it. So couple I guess handicaps in my way in this job, but I think I've got it figured out now. So basically what I'm doing, and be very careful with this because obviously you're playing with fire quite literally, and there's a lot of plastic and things around that you could damage and burn. So what I do is I simply heat up the area where, like I said, it makes contact to the rubber, and then I use my chisel and hammer to give it a little bit of movement, and then I go in and wiggle this back and forth to the point that the bond breaks. Yeah, this job sucks. This is not quite as disastrous as I thought it was going to be, but it's definitely one of my less favorite things to do, especially with everything in place, everything bolted to the car. It's just not a fun job. It's not pretty. It stinks. It sucks. It's awful. But yeah, and then on top of that, the worst part is I smashed my finger a bunch of times because I'm an idiot, apparently, and I can't manage to hit the back of this chisel. Granted, there's not a lot of room in here, but yeah, it hurt. So keep that in mind. Injury may occur. It's probably why I put a disclaimer in every description that I'm not a trained mechanic and I just do this for fun.
I'm alone, I'm a broken home. I gave you all the bricks that I own and own. I'm letting go, I'm breaking these walls down, If you want adventure, then fly to home. But if you want to travel, then go alone. Yeah, what's the point in us if I never know? Yeah,
okay, so as you can see, the bushing's starting to rotate. There you go. Woo! Finally! Holy hell! There we go. There it is. Wow. Not bad. Not bad, honestly. Who am I kidding? It was terrible. But I'm saying not bad in terms of the damage to the rubber. I did catch the rubber on fire a little bit, as you guys saw in the video. So it started smoking. I'm not too happy about that. But overall, got it out for the most part, unmelted. You can even still read. Optimal, Germany. Interesting. Nice. All right, the moment has come, guys. We're going to be pressing in these polyurethane bushings. Now, in Garagistic's case, you have a thicker and a slimmer. The bigger one goes between the body and the subframe, so aka at the top, and then this one with the little indentation right here goes at the bottom. Now, the reason why that is because if you remember, we have this little guy right here. This actually has a little bit of a cone shape to it, and therefore this guy sits nicely right on top of it like so. What we need to do at this point is align these little ridges with the guide on the subframe opening. As I said, this one goes at top, so I'm gonna finagle that one in, and then I'm gonna show you guys a pretty easy way to push this bushing in to the subframe. Put this bushing in through the top and then peek through the hole in the subframe and make sure that that is aligned. I'm gonna do that really quick off camera because I can't do that and film at the same time, but you get the idea of what I'm trying to achieve here. Yep, you guessed it. So what we're gonna do, after you install that washer, that spacer, up top above your bushing, you're going to very carefully apply pressure with your jack to get the bushing started. All right. There we go. And definitely double check, make sure that it is feeding in straight. Looks pretty good. Yep, that is in there. And very carefully jack up your subframe. Make sure that the bushing is straight and that it is going into the opening of the subframe. There we go. Yep, it is in there. Nice and straight. I bet the guys at Garagistic are shaking their head just thinking like, man, what the heck? But it works. It worked on both sides perfectly. The bushings are seated all the way around really nicely. I felt the other side. It feels good. It goes in quite effortlessly. I almost wonder if you could just push it in by hand, but you know, I figured if it pushes up against the mating surface where it's gonna sit anyways, I can't really go too wrong. But hey, again, I'm not an expert, not a professional, but this works. So we got the top done. Let's get the bottom pushed in. What I'm gonna do is I am going to feed this guy in, make sure that the machined and recessed part of this guide goes in through the top, because it actually sits in a provision inside the body. And then this is just gonna push in from below. And we're just going to tap that in. It goes in quite nicely as well. So here goes the guide in through, oh my gosh, the top bushing. There we go. Align it with that washer up top. Perfect. And then we're going to push this guy in very carefully. Let's actually support all this stuff again. Run to very carefully. There we are. Okay, bushings are in, boys. So at this point, what we can do is guide the entire assembly back up. And then we're going to drop our stud through the chassis. There it is. All right, so at this point, obviously, what you would do is reattach your bracket. This would line up like so. I would recommend to line up the other side before you tighten anything down. You can hand tighten some of these bolts and the 22mm nut. But if you remember, I still got quite a bit of work ahead of me. I got to finish drilling out this broken bolt right here. I have to retap it, and then I have to find replacement bolts for both sides. So that's going to be a fun project, but I hope that the reassembly at this point makes sense on how you put this stuff back together, just like you took it apart. All right, that is how you replace your subframe bushings on your E30 with the subframe still in the car, and you replace them with polyurethane bushings. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I do apologize about the fact that I did not actually finish the project. Some of you guys might know I'm not a huge fan of doing the whole like, well, you go halfway and then everything else is just in reverse order. Usually I try to show you exactly how you put everything back together, but in this case, I just have too much tedious work with the drilling, the finishing, the tapping, finding new bolts, etc. before I can put everything back together. But I do feel like we're at a pretty good stopping point, so I do hope that this video did help you guys. And I do hope that you're able to replace your subframe bushings without removing your subframe, because it is quite a bit of work, and I was able to do this pretty much in an afternoon. And had I not broken the bolts, I should have been able to finish this in just an afternoon, early evening. But unfortunately, I did have some things break, which I did expect. I expect this project to be pretty miserable. It could be a lot worse, but it could also be a lot better. So that being said, guys, thank you so much for watching. Really appreciate it. And I have a couple more videos coming up on the touring, and then we're going to start doing some driving stuff and something pretty fun. So make sure you stick around, make sure you subscribe to the channel. And guys, I will see you next time.
I'm saying bye to all the lies and all the times you cried, saying that I wasn't right, yet I was right by your side. You manipulator, playing games, your friends commentators, and I don't know what you say about our private conversations, but it's got them hating. Thanks to all the rumors you be claiming. It's cool, I'm done with you, so they can throw you a celebration. You gon' hate it.